Hey, Deconverted Man here. I've got Adrian with me. Haha.
G'day.
This is Adrian. No, that's not. I'm not sure. Is that how you say your name?
Yeah, Adrian will do.
As soon as I said
Well,
it,
Adream. What is it? You pronounce it
Adrian.
Adream, and it's Adrian. Okay. Oh, either or
Adrian.
is good.
I don't know. I was just thinking like Adrian from Rocky, and I was like, wait a minute, that can't be your name.
I have never watched Rocky, so I don't know. There you go.
Oh well, never mind then. So you're from Australia.
Yep. All my life.
And I'm from the United States, and we somehow met each other on the internet at one point in time, and we were both Christians at the time. I think
Yes.
if I remember, you were Catholic or
I was a Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness. Okay, see, that
Yeah.
was really close.
Not
Very
really,
similar.
but okay.
So I'd asked you because we I don't know how you found me or whatever it was, but at any rate, I was like, oh yeah, we got talking a long time on Facebook, but now we're here to do this thing. So one question I had that people might care about, I don't know, because it's my channel and hopefully they care a little bit about me, is what was I like when I was a Christian? You had a great answer last time. Hope you remember it, but you probably will change it, so it's gonna screw me.
Oh God. Well, if you remember my answer last time, you could always repeat it. But look, you were just different. Well, in many ways, you were the same. I mean, I remember Infinite Hope and that channel and how that ran, and I remember you referencing computer games and all sorts of things for why you believed what you believed, and it's just.
It was a different time, yeah. We met on a forum. That was
yeah.
We'll leave it out. Like we won't give too much away because we don't want people to find us or whatever.
Really?
I guess I don't know.
That forum no longer exists. Even
does it?
I mean,
no, but he does. No. Still on YouTube. I've seen the guy that ran the forum.
And
I'm just saying. I guess they couldn't.
What, you don't like him anymore?
I don't know. just trying to think how could they reverse engineer this to figure out more about me that I don't want out there. No, it's probably fine. But yeah, we met through Confused Matthew forums, and Confused Matthew was he's still, I think, on YouTube. I don't know. But anyways, he did reviews, and I was involved in the forums of his, and I met a bunch of people there and stuff, and because everybody kept begging for it, I finally I basically told them, look, you guys need a mod, I'll be the mod. And then I basically ran the forums because
I was one of the guys that suggested that you be a moderator. I actually made a thread about it, asking for you specifically because people somewhat seemed to trust you. Well, and so that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I'd been around. I mean, I'd been involved with CM for ages, before the forums became a thing, and yeah, it was just kind of he and his brother didn't know how anything on the internet worked, and I'd been on the internet for ages, so I was just like, let me just run the thing. I know what to do. So that's how that started. And even though I knew all the rules of how to do stuff online, I wanted to break all of them and just do it my way. But then I wound up doing it the internet way anyways.
Yep.
Because at first I wanted to run the forums okay, well, people can ask to be a mod, and then interview them or something or whatever. And then that's just it was and I was talking to this one guy named Happy Hamlet back in the day, and yeah, I was just, and I think I was talking to you through text. I guess you didn't have a voice back then. We had what was it, TeamSpeak or something like that? My God. Back in the day.
Didn't we have Stickcam?
No, that wasn't even a thing. No, it was TeamSpeak or I think we mostly had TeamSpeak, or then we later had Skype, but I think it was something like that. But at any rate, whatever it was, yeah, and just so it became like the new mods were just people I knew, which is how most forums are run. It's just like, that the people that are there the longest, that are most trustworthy and care about the community, and then they appoint people that they trust, and so on and so forth. It's basically how it goes. So even though I thought, well, I'll run it a different way, no, it didn't. But everybody wanted to keep talking about religion and politics. I was like, no, I don't want to. This is like just about movie reviews. Like, why? But everyone wanted it, so I made like a subsection just for that, and that was called Can of Worms. And it was my nightmare going there because I couldn't mod it. I just hated it. Like, I hated every part of it. I was like, and of course I wound up debating.
But that was the most popular section.
Yeah, that was the most popular section. And I just hated it. I was like, no, you take over. No, you run this. I don't want to deal with this. And it's just, yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand how to debate back then, really, or anything. So I just was miserable.
Yeah, I mean,
okay. Anyways, on the internet, nothing ever goes away. Purple rhymes with orange, says, yeah.
Yeah, look.
But yeah, you were there, and what was your and I don't know that we debated, but we talked a lot about all sorts of things.
Yeah, like I was a very devout Jehovah's Witness at the time, and having all that debate about Christianity and religion and politics and feminism and all of that, it combinated into a couple of things, and it changed a lot about me, that forum, whether it knew it or not. And for me, it started a quest, I guess, where I posted on other forums. Like the biggest other forum I posted on would have been Yahoo Answers, and at the time, Yahoo Answers was massive. I think I don't know how
it actually was useful. No, it's completely useless now. It was actually useful back in the day. Now it's useless. It's a meme factory now.
Oh yeah, but the religion and spirituality section used to be just constantly.
Did you ever find debatechristianity.com?
No. I just went to sites where there'd be a lot of people from a lot of different beliefs rather than a focus on one, because at the time I was like, okay, what I have is the truth, but how am I going to prove it to people who believe in Islam? How am I going to prove it to people who believe in, because if you
want to do it right,
because
that's our mission. If they don't believe the way that we're supposed to, then we're screwed, right?
Then they could be screwed. Yeah, exactly.
What's the idea with Jehovah's Witness as far as Christianity or Judaism? Were they like somewhat screwed, or was like everybody but them screwed, or what was your understanding of that?
Okay. Jehovah's Witnesses had a different belief than most Christians. So first of all, the thing that about Jehovah's Witnesses that everybody knows is that according to them, only 144,000 people will go to heaven.
Yeah.
All right. But the next step of their belief is that at some point in the future, like there'll be some great cataclysm, and a lot of people will die. All the bad people will die. All the people who would not accept God will die, and the ones that can accept God will live, and almost everyone else at some point who has ever lived will be resurrected and given a second chance if they didn't already believe or whatever. And at that point, you begin the messy business of turning the earth into a paradise and planning all this shit. And
am I right in thinking that the higher you got in the echelon, that eventually you would learn, like they would try to keep things away from people? I don't know if they still try, because with the internet it's pretty hard, but there's a belief that I thought that was if you worked hard enough that you would eventually become a god of your own universe. Is that right, or is that Mormon?
No,
Oh,
I think that's
Mormon. That's
Mormonism.
Mormon. Okay, never mind then. Yeah, that's
Oh,
Mormon.
that's certain
Never mind.
denominations of
Yeah.
Mormonism. I don't think they're even like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. Yeah, but no. See, I didn't have very much interaction with Jehovah's Witnesses or anything other than it's like, well, they all believe in God, so they're fine with me. You know, it's just those pesky non-believers. They're the real problem. You know, that's like the one thing like all religions agree on. It's like, oh, we hate the non-believers because they just ruin everything.
Well, like, ironically, you know, when I was Jehovah's Witness, the people that I admired the most were atheists, because in my mind, all of these other religions were BS. And so, since there were so many religions and they were all BS except for mine, obviously, then, you know, they were, in my mind at the time, they were right to be like, well, then all of this is BS, isn't it? You know, but so that was part
it's
of
just
the
they hadn't
reason.
heard of yours. That's why they didn't.
Well, they hadn't heard of mine, or it hadn't been explained in a way of which they would comprehend or understand it, and they hadn't been debated correctly, right?
Right.
And so my
exactly.
mission was to, you know, research all of these topics, right, and just debate the best thing that I can. Because obviously, if what you have is the truth, and you go out searching for more information to convince people of your truth, and you're good at debating, then you're going to win, right?
That's so how'd that turn out for you?
Well, it didn't turn out well, did it?
I think it did.
Well, I think what happened was the second most traumatic event in my life was when I sort of, when something defines you from when you were born and you lose that, it is traumatic.
Yeah.
There is no other way to describe it. Like, you feel a sense of loss, a sense of just, it's hard to describe.
No, well, I've been through that, and I still don't know how to describe it. But it's interesting to me because I've talked to lots of people with deconversion stories, and some that have always been atheists since birth, and so it's interesting to hear everyone's story. I mean, you know, it's the flip side of the faith stories. You know, it's like, oh, what was your conversion story? And usually they're pretty mundane and boring. Like, well, I just, you know, grew up in a Christian household, so that's what I was. You know, it's like, okay, well, that's it. You know, it's nothing really, you know.
I heard some pretty contrived conversion stories when I was a believer. Like, there was an example.
I heard that too. Yeah, I heard all the. Yeah, I heard lots of weird ones and stuff. But yeah, not everybody has had the emotional fallout. But you know, I mean, it's like, I'm not surprised to find that there are people that have had that. Because I mean, well, yeah, of course, it's kind of like, it's like breaking up with somebody, but you've not only are you breaking up with them, you're also finding out they never existed.
It's like breaking up with Santa Claus. No.
Well, yeah, no. Actually, there is a comparison because we're online, where if you're just in text, you get a certain. You only get so much of that person, you know, and then, so you know, they can pretend to be someone they're not, and if they're consistently playing that character, and you fell in love with that character, and then came to find out that's not who they are. That's kind of what I think it would be. Ready Player One could have been that, yeah. They didn't go down that route. Like, oh, I fell in love with this perfect girl that actually looks cute in real life. Yeah. Look, Hollywood. Look, Player One. Look, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief only so far. You met a girl online. That was okay. Everyone's online. Okay, that I can grant. She's also pretty. No, you went too far. Oh, look at this scar. What scar? Oh, you mean that sunburn? You know. Anyway, sorry, I don't know, but yeah. So yeah, you went, you know, trying to convince people of the truth, and what sort of things were you looking up or researching to try to try to do that?
Well, first of all, Jehovah's Witnesses have a lot of literature out.
Oh yeah.
And so I would read that. I read their books on evolution, on all sorts of issues, and climate change or whatever. And so I learned how to debate from their perspective. I learned which Bible verses to use. I learned which science could be cherry picked sufficiently to support my positions, right? And I learned, just how to debate, which on the internet turned into basically trying to turn anyone who disagreed with you into like the most evil thing you could possibly imagine half of the time.
So when you say learn how to debate, like, what do you mean? Like, just for looking?
Well, debate isn't really an honest word, because it's really, those kind of debates are very rarely honest debates. If you understand, like, most of the time you end up either in this continuous circle where you're trying to define what words are, and you go through a million words and you try to define what each of them means until the point that you both end up exhausted.
Yeah. I've been in that conversation. I know exactly
what does faith mean? Well, technically, it's if you believe the sun is going to rise tomorrow, that is faith. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and it's like, no, I mean, yeah, I've gone down
isn't going to assault you in the morning. That's faith, or whatever.
So they have issues with science as well, with biological evolution and things like that. Then,
or okay. I do not fully comprehend what the current position of the Jehovah's Witnesses are on evolution.
What was it when you were there?
The sort of gist of it was that, I think the argument that I could remember that any god that did not create his creatures to be able to adapt to their environments would be incompetent. And so that is why, there are people with brown skin and white skin and all of that and blah, 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 blah. And it's sort of, I guess the next thing would be a variation of the kinds argument, and each of their kind.
Yeah, they'll play loose and flash.
A kind and a genus are basically the same thing, apparently. So there you go.
I was listening to Hovind versus Aaron Ra video exchange, and I guess somebody found the Hovind things they were put offline, or maybe they put it back online. I don't know. But at any rate, I could not listen to this guy. Hovind, just like, oh my word. If you say, I was like, okay, if you say kind one more time, if you say that a frog will never have a not frog one more time, I swear, I'm just going to punch through the monitor into your face somehow. He just, didn't get it. And with the ideology like that ties into the religion, when you intertwine the God concept with a denial of reality, it's going to lead to all sorts of problems, at least when people agree with, evolution or age of the earth and stuff. It's like, okay, whatever their God is not going to be as ridiculous as otherwise, because if there was a God, it'd have to conform to reality. It'd have to, all the things we observe have to be the way that they are. They can't, it's, I don't get it, but yeah.
Yeah. So what was the way that I originally described you, if you can remember?
Oh yeah, well no, you said, well, I hadn't changed really much. I was passionate back then and I'm passionate back now. It's just I've changed what I'm passionate about. back now,
Yeah.
back now, whatever, back then, what then now, whatever, words, who cares? But yeah, I mean, I was, debating about God all the time, and now it's like, well, now I'm debating about, well, not God. Well, I'm still debating about God, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Well, and you said, you reminded me, I posted something about feminism, which I didn't know a dang thing about that back then. And now that I know about it, I'd rather stay far away from it. But that I was more like, I was like, well, we don't know what it is really. You don't know like who's a true feminist. And that's funny because it probably was very close to when I started learning about logic, because it sounds very much like a No True Scotsman, that I was saying that anyone can call themselves anything. But
Yes, they can.
You can say, well, I'm a Christian and not believe in any of this stuff. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense, but you could still do it. You could call yourself a Republican and vote nothing but Democrat. You could, you can say I'm from Australia and not be from Australia, but typically.
Yes, because according to some flat earthers, Australia doesn't exist.
Yeah, but typically.
And so I am lying.
Typically when you say, where are you from? People say where they grew up, like, not where they're currently living necessarily. It's just, I guess it depends. But, hey, Gary's in chat. That basically I think I don't remember the topic, it was way back when, but I think it was something along the lines of, that whoever is the true, whatever that is, feminist, you wouldn't, you don't know, because we'd have,
you tried to draw a connection with the true feminists and the true Christians, because you were trying to say that many people claim to be Christians, but obviously there are a few people who are the true Christians, and therefore,
so I was making a fallacy. Then I must have not.
Well, I mean, there is truth in both of those statements. I mean, how many Christians have actually, read the Bible or understand it?
Yeah, I think that
how many feminists have read feminist literature, or how many feminists just think, oh, it's just about equality? Okay, that's it. I feel good.
A good question.
I can call myself this without thinking now.
I think that there is a degree of people out there that would, say, oh, well, I'll look it up online. Oh, okay, well, the definition says this, and okay, so that's, sure, I'm that. Yeah, okay. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's what the definition says, but that's not what it really is, But, for a Christianity,
sometimes the definition of things change depending on where you look as well.
Exactly. And, but I'm sure there are people that just see the surface level and don't know what the name or what the title or label is. And then there's some that absolutely do know. And then trying to figure out who that is difficult unless you ask questions. And same thing with Christian. It's like, I've known really nice Christians and really just horrible Christians, but horrible from a theistic point of view, where this is not this person has not had that transformation in their life that you're supposed to see in every single Christian. It's like, well, when is that going to happen? I've been a Christian for however many years. It's like, yeah, and you're still a jerk. Like, why? What's taking so long? So, yeah, that's kind of one of those things where now, with the witnesses, it's more. I don't know, cult-like. Is that the right terminology, or?
I guess. I mean, I was raised in it, so I guess I don't see it as a cult. I just see it as normal. But for me, it's normal, I guess.
Yeah.
But they can, under certain circumstances, disown you if you leave and not talk to you at all, and not interact with you in those certain circumstances.
But control factors.
A lot of alleged non-cults also do that, like communications. I don't know how common they are, but they're, so I don't know the official difference between a cult and a religion is, so I
Yeah,
can't answer the question.
yeah, I've been told there's a joke I've heard about that a cult is where the leader is alive and religion is where the leader is dead. So
Okay, well then,
I don't
in
think
that
that's
case,
really the way you split it, but it's more like cults tend to have controls, like, you know, you're not allowed to date anybody that's not in the religion, you're not allowed to ever not be in the religion, you know, and stuff like that, where
well,
they'll
yeah, I
shun
couldn't really.
you and cut you off and all this stuff.
Jehovah's Witnesses had a problem with dating in general. I mean,
Yeah,
it was for a purpose, basically. The whole
yeah,
idea of dating was to find a good, wholesome person, and
yeah. But I mean, you still were
yeah,
restricted to other Jehovah's Witnesses, though, right?
yes.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a sense of control. But did your friends, family, whoever that you knew cut you off when you deconverted, or did you tell them, or
No, no, and yes. Nobody has cut me off, and that's because I got away on a technicality. I was never baptized,
ah,
and with Jehovah's Witnesses, baptism is a bit different than it is to other Christian faiths. Now, I understand with Catholicism and other beliefs that you sometimes baptized not long after you're born. Um, Jehovah's Witnesses view baptism as you making the choice, you confirming that that life is the life you want to live. And so
mm,
you'll, in theory at least, not get baptized until you're allowed to answer a certain amount of questions correctly, seem like you understand what you're getting yourself into.
mm.
And after you're baptized at that point, you can be disfellowshipped if you don't live up to what you have promised to.
You've basically formed a social contract with everybody there that, you know, this is going to be the rest of my life, and, you know, I'm going to do these certain things, and if you don't, well, you know.
Yeah, like I remember like the one of the most controversial things I ever remember happening was when this kid, I think he was 9, got
Uh-huh.
baptized, and that was the thing that caused the most conversation because everyone, many of the people who were baptized themselves said, 9 is too young. You really don't know
Mm,
what you want to do at 9.
hmm.
And so one of the main debates that people sort of have, I mean, not publicly, obviously, because they want to
Yeah.
be seen as being all on the same side of everything. But one of the conversations you'd have is, should there be a minimum age? And what should that age be if there should be? And to my knowledge, they haven't set one, but, it would be nice if
Yeah.
they did at some point, but I don't think they ever will.
I think I do like the idea that, you know, before you're officially like part of the thing, that you have to know a certain amount of things. I think that's a good idea. Of course, I think that the application or the other things around it need improving. I think that they'll eventually, well, I mean, obviously they'll change or die, because all religions have to do that, you know. I don't, I mean, I guess it works pretty well for it because it's been around so long, but I wonder if the aspects of the cutting people off part will fade rather quickly in this generation, or if they'll just keep going. It's hard. I don't know. It's interesting to ponder, but
They're
there's.
certainly not the powerhouse they used to be.
Mhm.
I think a whole lot less people are in it now than they used to be. So yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know either.
I think that it's also different because so many people are online, and nobody wants to go door to door, because like you hear the door knock, it's like, oh, everybody hide, like, you know, like who's at the door, what's going on, you know. You're likely to get shot, so it's like
Well,
you can't send out
I'm in
missionaries
Australia, so
anymore.
that really doesn't happen here.
Yeah, don't send out missionaries anymore, right? Well, there I'd imagine being a missionary is very difficult. It's too far away from anyone else, depending on where you are. Well, you got this desert between us and everyone else, so
Well, I mean, again, with the witnesses, you're only supposed you're only responsible for being the missionary around the area of which you live.
Wow.
So every congregation is given certain territory of their responsibility to go to and knock on, and they do this once or twice a week, depending.
Mm,
And to just lock a certain area up, and yeah, there you go.
mm.
Now they
Now,
do have a do not call list of houses they're not supposed to go to for whatever various reasons. But as to how to get on that list, your guess is as good as mine.
probably upside down cross or something would would be the.
Oh, they don't believe in the cross either, but that's a
Oh,
whole other story.
oh, okay, interesting. Do they
Yes.
have the X instead, or
No.
no crucifixion?
Okay. No, the crucifixion, but they believe that it was on a single pole,
Oh, okay.
with both hands nailed
Ah,
together and both feet nailed together on the single pole, rather than
so
it being an X
it's
thing.
it's
Now,
a
I don't know
post.
what the difference of that is. I don't know why that is important as compared to the other thing, but apparently it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, because everyone has to have their own kind of thing. Like, symbols are a way to associate with brands and stuff. So that's why, different symbols are used so much. The fish and the cross, that's like, oh, Christian. The Star of David, oh, Jewish, and it's like you see a little line, you're like, oh, I don't know. Jehovah's Witness, the idiot. Oh, okay. Like,
Well,
you see it like
it's like
nobody does the X, and that's really interesting because they mixed and matched the crucifixion style back, when they were doing that stuff with X's and some were capital T's, some were lowercase t's. So they just, who knows? So it's like, well, why not the X? Why not the capital T? Who says it couldn't be that, But you see somebody wearing an X, you probably have no idea because it didn't catch on for whatever reason,
yeah, exactly. There is. They really wouldn't wear jewelry of that kind anyway. Like they don't like symbolism of many different kinds, and so
Mm.
yeah, it's just
They
a
have
different way of thinking. Like you basically have to reorganize the way you think in
yeah.
order to fit in there.
Purple Rhymes with Orange says that he was pagan for Yule, and he put up a pentacle, five-pointed pentacle on his house, and then they was not bothered by Jehovah's Witnesses. Is that?
Yes, because they are trained to truly believe that paganism is basically the devil. Like, why can't Jehovah's Witnesses celebrate Christmas? Well, because it's pagan. That's true, but they're not allowed to, partake in any of the
And you think that would be
things that go on
the
around
very
Christmas
people
or
that you would
birthdays
want?
or Easter or God knows what else, because it's all pagan. Which is
Boring.
well, it is accurate to say though. I mean, they're not lying.
No, yeah, it's like, oh man. So you went on all this journey. How long do you think that took before you started deconverting, or was that the journey was the deconversion?
I think the journey was it was a free. I think it was at least a 3-year ordeal, and
Mm.
it just was an ordeal. Like you felt that you were in some kind of battle, and you felt these doubts gnawing away at you. And there's only so many times you can dismiss them and say, "Oh, this is obviously the devil trying to tempt me," because obviously I am so important that the devil himself has singled me out,
Hmm.
ahead of everybody else. And but you don't think logically. You just think these doubts are just
Well, I
the
think
thing.
you're using logic. It's just not logical logic. Like you're using a certain set of way, a certain pathway. But yeah, to call it logic would be not proper. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you have a rhyme and reason to it, but it's like you have to look this way to tilt your head, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, sure. If I do that, it makes sense, But for me, it was like about, I think, a year. I usually label it as, but I left the forums. I think I was still Christian at that time when I left the forums. So it wasn't. It was
Yeah,
about a
you were
year
still
after.
doing Christian videos when
Yeah.
you left. Trust me. Well, when the forums died, more accurately.
I left and then the forums died. Okay, well, good. No, I'm not. No. Well, yeah, I don't want to get into that stuff. But but the thing that was interesting about that you knew me when I was a Christian is that I'd be telling people on here on Deconverted Man because I've been doing this for so long. I'm like every now and then I'll be like, yeah, I used to do Infinite Hope and like it's like I wonder if people believe me. Also, like I have somebody that was there. He knows.
Yeah, you used to do it all the time, and I forget what most of your arguments were, but I remember you having. I even remember having your own website at
Yeah,
one point.
yeah, I sure
I
did.
forget what it was called,
It
but
was
you had it.
probably infinitehope.com or something like that. Yeah.
It was something else. There was some other thing that's no longer available now.
Yeah, it probably
And
was on tripod or something wacky like that.
well,
But no,
I don't remember.
I had so many videos, and the thing is, I say had because I just literally when I deconverted, that was it. I just shut the channel down. It's like boom, done. And about I don't know how long it took me to really grasp. I think another year before I was really able to call myself a skeptic truly, and I started doing Deconverted Man between that, and because I was just too angry and jaded to to do anything about anything. Plus other stuff, but that certainly didn't help. But then I was like, oh man, I really wish I hadn't just deleted my channel because I could have used these videos. So I still have some of them on a hard drive, and every now and then I'll do a me versus me where I'll upload one of my older videos and I'll take it apart and point out all the things I got wrong.
Avatar of Self. That's
Avatar of Self. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I was so sure that I had a knockdown argument there. And the weird thing was like Christians were like not interested in it. So it was really frustrating to me because I was like, this is a new argument, which I'd been around long enough on Infinite Hope to see that there was like 3 arguments that people would make, or maybe 4, and now of course I have them memorized: the Kalam, the moral argument, the empty tomb argument, and it's like these aren't convincing to people, and so here was a different argument that I thought was, it was. I think I covered it on the channel in a me versus me video. I don't remember offhand, but I have a whole playlist of the me versus me. So if people want to check that out, they can. Wherever the bleep that playlist is, there it is. Let me put that in the thing so people.
Well, I guess I was lucky. One time I was just on read-only forums, I guess. And a lot of them, I guess, I could find if I really wanted to, if I really tried. But
And half an hour later, Deconverted Man is still a nerd.
Yeah.
What was that?
That don't just ignore it. It will go away if we ignore it. No, I guess I didn't ever have that particular video. I don't know if I have access, if I even have it anymore. But if I find it, I'll definitely cover it because it's worth covering. But
you certainly don't have the website anymore. It doesn't work. I just tried it.
That's long gone. But yeah, I did a lot of text debates. Once I deconverted, I did a lot more text debates. I think I did it under my other name, not Deconverted Man. But then I graduated from that. I graduated from that to YouTube because I'm like, okay, I'm done talking to people in text. I'm gonna do videos. So that's what I did, and here I am.
You're talking about your Pokemon name, and now you're Deconverted Man. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. A few people know about that, but not too many. I'd rather spare them from that. Although I posted one of my flash from the past videos for Thanksgiving because I didn't want to re-record it. The video is simply gobble gobble gobble, I'm a turkey over and over again. Like
Yes, I remember Happy Hamlet's
turkey.
I remember Hamlet's Happy Hamlet's comment on that was, for me to watch 10 minutes of this, there better be one of two things: either the meaning of life or how to make breast out of meat.
There
or
was
something,
there was a hidden message in one of the two. I made a second one. I don't know why, but I made a 15-minute one. First, I made a 10-minute one, then I made a 15-minute. And there's a hidden message in one of them. Bleeped if anyone's gonna, find it. I don't even know what it is. Something stupid like, "Wow, you have no life" or something. And I like doing weird things like that. Like I put a really bad shout out video up for this guy at Gerbmania because a different atheist like shouted him out. So I'm like, oh, I didn't shout him out. I should do that. So yeah, I was like, well, because he said like, oh, you can't offend me or something like that. I don't remember. So I'm like, challenge accepted. So anyways, I proved he was Hitler. Yeah, and in the video, there is a hidden message, but nobody has figured it out or cared to even try to figure it out yet. So
well, I hope
That's the thing.
it's secretly a pug.
secretly a pug, yeah. I was talking to I wasn't talking to. I talked at Dankula because I'm not big enough to notice. I was like, because he was saying something about genocide or whatever, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, we should genocide pugs. Look what they did. I was like, I don't understand why we threw the human in jail. It's the pug that did the thing. So this should be the pug is the one that he didn't get thrown in jail. Whatever it was happened to him, which was a fine or something stupid. Whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
fine.
Completely dumb. Just until like now I want to do it all the time. Like that should get everybody to try to get their dogs and cats and whatever else they have to do that. Just like have 100 people do it and post it online and say, okay, now what? You're gonna find us all? You're gonna find us all? Bring it on. But see, people are like,
people will not do that. I remember the Charlie Hebdo incident.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And
yeah,
I remember
he got shot up. He got shot up. The whole place got.
They got shot up.
They got shot up because why? They made a cartoon, and they didn't. It's like, where's the outroar? Where's the rage for this?
Well, for me, like I being somewhat of a troll sometimes, I decided to try and get that printed on a shirt, right?
Yeah,
and no one
wanted to do
that.
it. Well, now
no one wanted to do it. No one even wanted to touch it. No one even wanted to look at it.
Well, now there is
want to be next.
Yeah, there is now a Draw Muhammad Day. That's what came about as a result of that. And what's funny is that drawing Muhammad wasn't a bad thing back in the day in Islam. And there's been people that have painted this guy and done just, not bad. It's just here's this person and, made him look really nice. And it's like, how is that going to upset you? How is that going to offend you? That here's this nice drawing. Like, you can't even draw him nicely. Is that, what's the deal here, guys? And it does seem like they're, for whatever reason, bending over that certain politics are bending over backwards to protect Islam from offense. Like, no, you're not allowed to go ask them questions because that will incite them to riot. Wait a minute. You're telling me that that they're going to get upset just by me asking questions and not protect me from them. You're protecting them from words. Really? That's backwards. We can say words at each other and that shouldn't lead to violence. Really, if somebody calls you, I don't care what they say to you, whatever they call you, whatever insults they throw at you, it shouldn't be that you punch them in the face. That it's just not the right response. The response is insult them back or leave. That's it.
I'll tell you one of the single most ironic thing about Islam ever, and it's a bit of a tangent, it's a bit off the topic, but a long time ago, this was about maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, I had to help a man find shelter because he was a victim of domestic violence. And the only group at the time that could shelter him was not an atheist group, was not an atheist funded organization, it was not a government organization, it was an Islamic organization that sheltered him. And they not only sheltered him, they sheltered a totally gay guy as well, who was a victim of domestic violence.
Yeah, see,
and
they can do good, right?
them.
Yeah,
And these other groups of people who should
do that
for gays, for everyone,
right.
we're not doing that. And what the fuck is happening? When Islam is being more egalitarian than anyone else. Egalitarian
right.
groups.
What's funny with that is, people will say when you start smack talking like Islam or whatever religion, it's like, well, not everybody's like that. It's like, yeah, no, I know that. I'm not worried about the good ones. The good ones won't care if, I say something that's upsetting. They're not going to come after me. It's the bad ones I'm worried about. That's the ones I'm talking about. It's like, well, yeah, that's great when those people of any religion, anybody, any group does something beneficial to society. That's good. I'd rather they do it just because it's good than because of their religion. But in the end, it doesn't matter as long as they're doing the good. That kind of outweighs it in the end. Because, well, at least in utilitarian ethics, so that's what I what do you know what your ethical system is by any chance offhand? Or
my ethical system?
Yeah, have you ever even thought about that?
My ethical system now, or my ethical system when I was
well, yeah, I mean both. Yeah, sure. I mean,
well, okay, I guess they call it a moral system, before. But basically, you just do whatever you're told to do.
Yeah, that's kind of divine. Are told by who? By God or by
the Bible, by the witnesses? If you're a round peg, you still got to fit in the square hole.
Yeah, so I mean that's basically
somehow,
divine. That's divine command theory, basically.
Yeah, sure. And now I'm like, look, if you're not hurting anybody, and whatever you're doing is, legal, I don't really care.
Okay, now, well, there is a law or a moral system known as legalism, which is whatever is legal is permissible, and whatever is illegal is not permissible. So if X horrible, terrible thing became legal, then it's not terrible anymore because now it's legal. Would that fit for you, or would you see problems with that?
Well, that's why I gave it, as long as you're not hurting somebody, that little preface at the beginning. And then it becomes, okay, what kind of hurting somebody is permissible and what kind of hurting somebody is not permissible? Because like, if you go for a job, right, you get hired, technically you're hurting someone because somebody else didn't get that job and you did.
That is the way to think of that. Yeah.
I mean, so obviously some ways of hurting somebody have to be okay, don't they? And so it's just a matter of, okay, at what point should it be a problem and why? And
yeah.
So I haven't completely thought all of that through yet, but yeah.
I mean, that sounds somewhat utilitarian. There's some other ones in there that it reminds me of. I'm trying to find my list of ethical systems, so my computer's not behaving itself. But whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I find myself. I guess if there's some such thing as a libertarian, sort of almost, I would be almost that. Except I see the need for government to be involved in certain circumstances. So
I
there's that.
don't now see, because I'm an American, we don't know anything but our own system, and we don't even really know that. So I don't know how
that's good
it works in
because
Australia.
Australians. Let me tell you something about Australians. Australians know the American system better than we know our own system.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because almost all of our media that we consume come from America.
Huh. So
there you go.
We just need to hire Australians to run our politics, and then we'll run their politics, and everything will balance out, right?
You really do not want Pauline Hanson.
Okay, I'll just agree with you. Okay.
Look. I would almost take Trump over Pauline Hanson. Like, actually, I would take Trump over Pauline Hanson.
Could be worse.
Yes, it could be worse than a woman who is famous for starting a fish and chips shop and then being a leader of politics.
Oh, it did not parse well into chat, into the other chat. Did it for this chat, but not outside chat. Boy.
I can only see one of the chats anyway, so
I don't know which chat you can see. So, all right, there it goes. Parse the other way. There we go. Yeah, so these are the list of the different ethical systems, and you can look them up later, or whatever. But yeah, I went with utilitarianism because it was easy to remember. I was like, yeah, that's the one. I like that one. That sounds like me. But they're all, interesting to look at and to think about. Although I guess because people talk about morals and they rarely talk about ethics, and I'm like, you should really talk about the ethics. The ethics are what you build the morals around, right? But I don't know.
Well, I mean, of course, you're going to choose utilitarianism because if you think about it, utilitarianism is just all of them. It's just which one of these is of most use to my current situation.
Well, it's a very logical sort of format, so it's very pragmatic because it goes with my logical brain, I guess. It's like, yeah, when I learned informal logic, it kind of just rewrote my way of thinking, I think. Like, I don't know. It's just I viewed things in a very different way than I did, whereas like.
And how did you learn informal logic, if you don't mind me asking?
I read a book. That's how I started. I read a book, and then I read other things online about it. Utilitarian reason to choose utilitarianism. If you want one, sure, I'll go for that. But yeah, I read about, and I studied the different formal and to some extent and informal logic, and really the difference for informal logic is simply that it's an examination of natural language versus pure syllogism. So that way, like when you can take any written or spoken thing and find what the argument is and deconstruct it for logical fallacies. There's certain exceptions that it's like that might be immune to doing that with. Like, if you remember the website TimeCube was back in the day, that was just incoherent. The whole website's just like, huh? What am I looking at? What am I reading? There's some things that are completely like there you can't even begin to analyze it because there's just everything is complete utter rubbish. It's just like good luck. But a utilitarian reason to choose utilitarianism over the other ethical systems, there's really I don't know if there is a if you want to do the least harm to the least amount of people and the most good to the most amount of people, or actually I should say do the least harm to the least amount and the most good for the most amount, because it might not be people. You might be thinking about animals and insects and plants and the world. It's like, what level are you going to consider? And obviously you can only go so far with it. You run different thought experiments, of course, but the best you can do in the moment that you're given to make a choice is you never know what you're actually going to do. You only know what you want to do. Like, you don't know if you're actually going to do it when you're there. So ideally, you would jump on the grenade to save everybody else, but in reality, you might toss the grenade.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
No.
I mean, maybe I'd just toss the grenade back at whoever threw it or something, but who knows what you'll actually do when confronted with the situation, and hopefully you'll never have to, do that. In the show called The Good Place, which is great and people should watch it. It's hilarious. I love it. They say, okay, enough with talking. We'll experience the trolley problem, because that's way different than just talking about the trolley problem. That if you're confronted with having to change the lever to hit one person versus a crowd of people, that is very different than just thinking about doing that. So
yeah, I mean, I was heavily amused to see the trolley problem existing in movies, like in The Dark Knight, for instance, as an interesting
well, they set it up.
Trolley problem.
Yeah, okay, if you kill all these people that are criminals, or they're gonna maybe kill all of you people. Well, the choice there is actually the right. What they did was the right choice. Is not to choose the other one, and then the other one didn't choose them, so neither one of them blew up. Now, of course, had I been the Joker, I would have just blown up both boats anyways.
Well, that's what he tries to do. But look,
yeah,
they did that. He did that twice, technically. Like, I was actually thinking of a time where they had to choose between Dent and what's her name?
Yeah, the girl. Rachel. Right. Well, no, but yeah, but the a similar scenario is you're on an island with an infant and a very large person, very very obese person, and you've got plenty of water, but you have nothing to eat. So do you eat the large person or the infant? And the ethical answer, at least within utilitarianism, is you offer yourself up to be eaten, because that takes you out of the equation, and it also it is the least harm you can do to them is 0, and so by offering yourself, you've made the most possible moral choice. Of course, whether you would do that or not is another story.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having this debate in school. Like, you're on a sinking ship, only so many lifeboats. How do you decide, who gets on? And people were like women and children or whatever, and old people first or whatever. And here's what I said. I said, okay, here's the deal. I can't swim very well. 2, if you get in my way, I will punch you.
Right? Yeah, it's very very self-serving
all on my own. But I am going. I'm not drowning.
Yeah, very self-serving. Yeah, well, I mean, look, but that's very
drowning
honest.
Is one of my fears. Like, I it's like a phobia of mine.
Well, maybe you should learn how to swim.
Drown. Well, I do know how to swim. I just don't know how to swim well enough that I would be confident in my ability to not drown in that specific situation.
Well, don't get on any ship with name T anything. I don't know. This blank won't ever blank. Nope. I'm done. Nope. Yes, it will.
Yes. YouTube will never fail.
Uh-oh. Well,
never.
I've screwed it all now. But see, the universe doesn't care, because like we can't ever outsmart the universe. So yeah, I'll never have a $1 billion trillion. And the universe is just like, yeah, I know. And no, it was supposed to be reverse psychology. Nope, doesn't work. Oh, I will have $1 billion trillion and still no. What do I have to do, universe? I don't know. Or something that makes you $1 billion trillion. Yeah. Something horribly illegal or something really epically awesome. I can do neither of these things, universe. Well, then you're screwed.
All you have to do is meet Elon Musk, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey, can I borrow? Whatever. I don't know. Can I have just $100? He'd be like, well, I don't even know what $100. Oh, yeah, here you go. Whatever. Yeah. Sure. Here you go. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that let's talk a little bit about what you do, because I think that is important. And so you are one of many men's rights groups in Australia. So
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Right. Well, me and a friend of mine started a group called Men's Rights Sydney. And what we would do is we would go around putting up posters everywhere and bringing awareness to various issues that men face. And so I created like a Facebook group for this and all sorts of stuff like that. And eventually I got enough interest from outside of Sydney that I changed the Facebook name to Men's Rights Australia, and we now have a chapter in Brisbane. We sort of kind of have a chapter in Melbourne that's kind of works, but doesn't really work all that well. I'm hoping to fix that in the next year. Basically, the idea is to challenge the narrative where we believe the narrative is wrong, give men a place where they can, when they're angry, they can air out their anger in a reasonably safe environment where they're not angering anybody else. And they can go on with the rest of their lives seemingly, in a constructive fashion. Because what often happens, in my experience anyway, let's say, for instance, a man gets divorced and maybe his divorce is particularly bitter, and in that moment, in that headspace, he's not going to say things that are constructive. He's going to say a lot of things that he's going to regret, but he's going to be very angry and very bitter in that situation. And so it's a matter of converting that into positive energy for himself so that he knows what he should be doing and what he shouldn't, and how to move on from that. That's step one. And so that's groups like, for example, Dads in Distress in Australia. They're a counseling network. I've worked with them in the past to ensure that men in those situations, get help. And then there's a matter of, what do we do next? And often what we do next is try to ensure that some laws stay pretty much the same as they are. Like there are laws that within our family court that try to ensure a somewhat equal arrangement between both parties outside of certain circumstances, like domestic violence or whatever, and try to reform certain other laws. Like, for example, in 2008, our prime minister at the time, I think it was 2008, and I think her name was Julia Gillard, basically took a lot of she changed the law in a fashion that make it harder to prosecute people for lying in a family court.
Well,
so that's a problem, in my opinion. If you are found to be lying, then you should be punished. If you commit
perjury, right? Yeah, because the whole point of being sworn in is that then there's a consequence for lying, which is perjury, and if you're caught in the lie, then something bad happens to you. So it's like, if you don't have that, then you've lost the control that's in place for a reason.
My understanding is we still have it. It's just sort of harder to prove now. I can't really go into specifics, because,
right?
Like,
legally,
off the top of my head, I don't
legally
know them.
It's always difficult, right?
Yeah, but basically, that's the short version of
now,
certain things that we want to challenge, and yeah.
let's say somebody wanted to open because there is very little to no men's shelters. Like if you're a woman and something happened, or even if you're scared that something will happen or whatever, there's plenty of shelters. And then if you have a kid, even easier, to get the access. But if you're a guy and you have a kid, you're pretty much screwed. Or if you're just a guy, you're almost pretty much screwed. So if somebody says, hey, look, I want to open a men's shelter here that takes kids, what's my first step? Do you point them to that first step, or is there too many hurdles for them to even do that?
Well, first of all, there have been a lot of changes in Australia. A lot of domestic violence shelters are not owned by the people who used to own them. Sort of what happens in Australia is that people, every now and again, when the government feels like it, or maybe it's based on a certain amount of time, I don't know off the top of my head, but basically, certain organizations can offer to run a domestic violence shelter for costing X amount of money. And generally, it's on domestic violence shelters that already exist.
So making a new one's like you'd have to
now run.
Oops.
Well, making a new one, but sort of what's been happening is that new organizations are starting to take over the certain domestic violence shelters, and they are organizations that are often more religious in nature. And so, believe it or not, like I mentioned with the Islam thing, ironically, they are more egalitarian than the alleged egalitarians that were running them before. So, in Australia, at least, there are a lot of places in New South Wales specifically, which is, where I live, which is a state where I am, where you can get help. But the funniest thing to me is that the reason why you can get help is because it's either run by someone who's Islamic or Christian or some other person, which will give help to gay and straight and lesbian and all of this, whereas certain other groups that will discriminate based on their ideology. So we've got this real irony in a way.
Well, I would imagine, they might want to expose them to their, religion or whatever, or they might not, because I've been to the, Super Sheep Clinic that's run by Catholics or owned by Catholics. So everywhere you turn is like, here's a tract to take, here's, things all over the walls about God, this and whatever. And when you're poor, that's you just go, okay, because that's it. You don't have beggars can't be choosers. There's not enough secularists or atheists or skeptics yet, I don't think, to really fund something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe they do have enough money. I have no idea. But
like I said, something like this is generally just funded by the government, at least in Australia,
right?
And by various charitable organizations.
Right. So if you wanted to, you'd have to do whatever it is to do to be like, okay, I want to start a charity, and this is what I want to do. You have to have like a business plan, like any other business, I guess.
I should probably clarify that that what it's like in America is something that I'm completely ignorant of.
No,
I cannot in any way say whether or not what's happening in my country over this particular topic is the same.
Yeah, no, but it is it is an issue that there are. See, I don't know. Maybe the word rights is the wrong word to use in general, because it's like maybe if we called it like access, like women's access, men's access, would that be better? I don't know.
See, I think the reason why it's named men's rights is not because we chose that name. It's because that name was for us. It was chosen for us, and it's like, instead of accepting that as an insult, we just embraced it. basically.
Yeah, and
basically
it's like
how
what the
it
early
happened.
Christians did, so why not? You know.
Well, you know, in that sense, it sort of worked for us, and I've sort of had to deal with all sorts of BS because of it. But you know,
Yeah. Because they'll
it's
say, "Well,
getting
what are you
there.
doing for women?" It's like, well, they have plenty of things to do things for women. They're out there too. So
I would absolutely. There are issues there. Well, in Australia, I would say there's one big, massive issue for women that really is not getting any real conversation going or anybody talking that we should be talking about, but we aren't.
well, what's that?
Is the way of which both political parties manipulate fear, particularly in women, in order to get them to vote for them. Like, but like, again, I'm not entirely sure if this is the same is true in America, but in Australia, at least, whenever there's an election, it's like both parties say X group of men are going to hurt women. We are going to save women. Therefore, you should vote for us.
Well, that doesn't seem like a
Whether it's
rights
immigrants
issue. That's not
or
like a rights issue as much as it is like a ad issue, like a advertisement issue. Like, you know, because appeal.
Oh no,
yeah,
I'm not saying it's a right issue per se, but it is an issue that is not being addressed.
But the main thing that I think that, you know, groups like this get as flack is like, well, but what are you doing for the women? It's like, well, that are, you know, there's a group that's for that, you know.
There's a group that's for that gets government funding, and mine doesn't. What's your point?
Yeah, that's weird. That because, and then if you wanted to have a group like human rights or whatever, like just for everybody, like, oh, we'll fight for both sides because there's things lacking for both sexes, you know, and just, you know, and trying to get it better than it is an upward fight always, you know. And it's like,
trying to make laws gender neutral can be extremely difficult.
No, I don't know that would be smart to even try. But I mean, well, certain things you could, but you know, other things you couldn't, you know. But
well, what things couldn't you make gender neutral?
Couldn't
hypothetically?
You? Well, like, well, I guess I'm thinking medical sort of treatment things. You would want to pretty much leave that as is because you do have to treat men and women differently or whatever.
Well, you know, there's the way people are treated, as far as I'm aware, outside of, you know, not being malicious or whatever. Like,
I think that,
I'm not sure how that changes with the law.
No,
I think we're talking in a cross. I think we're talking.
I don't know. My mind went somewhere else. I don't know. But like, I was thinking of like, well, you know, it doesn't matter what sex you are if you run the red light. But there have been studies that show, you know, drivers that are men under X age are, you know, higher or lower percentage rate of accidents than women and stuff like that. So there is a degree, you know, if you base things on data, you know, and logic, you know, who wants to do that? You know, we're talking politics. But if it was based on that, then like, because insurance companies do that, like they'll charge, I think it was, I want to say it was women drivers under a certain age get charged less than men drivers under a certain age, but then women drivers over a certain age get charged more than men drivers over a certain age. And that's because like the driving habits of younger women are different than the driving habits of younger men, you know, broadly speaking. So they adjust the amount that they charge people based on the data. And so if we did something like that with laws where we're like, okay, you know, this is just based on the data that we're getting, and of course the data is going to change now that we've changed these laws, you know, and then when the next, you know, fiscal year comes in or whatever, and you go, okay, here's how the data has changed. Now do we need to adjust the laws again, you know? But that's trying to make logical sense out of politics. So
I would be against that for various reasons. Like, we have various ways to manipulate the data.
Oh yeah, well, you'd have to have a non-interested party that couldn't be paid off and things to get the data in the first place. So
Yeah, which doesn't exist.
well,
Like,
well, no, I mean, if it was, you know, a foreign thing that's their whole career, their whole job is just to get data, and that's all they do, and it's like it is used. They can't be bought off because you know they always charge the same amount or what. I don't know. You'd have to have a computer or AI. That's it. There's the solution. There you
right. But then there's the matter of how you interpret the
go.
data.
Right. Yeah.
And like for I'll sort of give you an Australian example. There was a study many years ago asking very young in the teens, whether it was okay to hit their partner under certain circumstances. Okay, and the first study was released sex specific, and it showed, by the way, very clearly that girls in that age were significantly more likely to say it was possible to hit their male partners in all of these circumstances. All right, and that basically was not really reported all that much on the media, but what was reported was basically it all of a sudden that became a genderless statistic. X amount of young children think it's okay to hit their partner. We need to teach boys not to be violent.
Oh yeah.
That's and of course that's an accurate statistic, by the way.
But it's
the
used the wrong way,
is
right?
kinda wrong.
Yeah. Because
And so, yeah.
well, and that you would only have to teach one side and not the. It's like, look, just teach everybody if that's what you're gonna do. You don't have to. When you divide it, then you make divide. Duh. It's like, well, we're gonna teach only the boys not to hit girls. Okay, well, how about teaching the girls not to hit boys? Well, or not to hit other girls, and teach the boys not to hit other boys then. But like that, it's not going to work, by the way. But I mean, if
it really isn't. I mean, the thing is, when you're a teenager, solving issues with violence is pretty common.
Yeah, I mean,
like it happens all the time.
It does. It does. When you're young and when you're a teen, it is common to get into fights, or whether they're physical or other, more than when you're an adult. So we have to consider that. And there was some ad campaign where the kid, I think it was BBC or whatever did it, but at any rate, the kid had been suspended from school because he flipped a girl's skirt up, like he flicked it into the air, so he could catch a glimpse of her panties or whatever, and he got suspended for that in the ad. And he's like, oh, that's not fair, it's just boys being boys. And then all of a sudden the girl in the back's like, yes, I have learned that I will be abused all the time by men, and I just must accept it, blah blah. And I'm like, no, look, no, stop, come on. Really, it's just too far the other way. It's like, look, there has to be why the bleep are really is flipping somebody's skirt or pulling down pants or whatever, is that really a reason to suspend people or not? No.
Well,
where are we going to draw
reasons to have some kind. I mean, what form of intervention should take, I guess, really depends on the people say. But look, that
I mean, it
campaign,
just, you know what I'm talking about.
It's just one of many. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly the ad campaign.
Yeah, and I think there was a better one, and this is the thing that I like to see more of, is it was some French thing, and they had the boy say hi to this girl, then touch her, and then they told him to hit her, and they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And supposedly they flipped the script. I haven't been able to find it online, but they did it with girls and telling the girls to hit the boys. And if they had done that, I don't know if they did, that would be good too, because even though you could just find, you could cherry pick, obviously with editing, but I thought that's a positive spin, not the, instead of saying this negative way, let's show the positive way. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a method to how to convince people, what, what's right, or what you ought to do or not ought to do, without going like shaming people into it or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's a complicated,
really. I mean,
it's a complicated thing. I'm not saying I have the solution or anything, but
well, the thing is, right? I mean, if you want to change people's behavior, you've got, from my understanding, 3 ways of doing it. You've got one, convincing them that the behavior you want them to portray is correct in whatever fashion. 2 is you make the government force them to do this behavior in whatever fashion. Or 3, you shame them into this behavior.
What's weird to me is that it's been shown many times with psychological studies that positive reinforcement works way better than negative. So it's like, well, duh, we know this by now, or we should know this by now. And
I'm not sure that's always the case. I mean, there are definitely circumstances of very successful negative reinforcement.
Sure, but in sum total, the scale of the bell curve tends to tilt towards positive reinforcement working better. And also there was a similar thing that was to do with how they get information from people, that I was just watching the Skeptic magazine YouTube channel, that's a mouthful, had put out about torture, and talking about how torture doesn't work, and we know that it doesn't work. But what law people have found is that being friendly with the person, becoming their friend, sort of, that gets them to give you information way more than the harsh ways do. So
right, I mean, you look at how we convince people to do something, I guess a lot of people would consider drastic. Like, say you want people to go to war for whatever reason. Now, in Australia, there have been at least 2 ways. Well, 2 or 3 ways have gone about this. One, we've had the white feather campaigns, which go around in World War One, a bit in World War Two too, and shame men into enlisting with giving them a white feather that was supposed to symbolize cowardice. Okay, and another way we do it is we say, okay, if you go to war and maybe you die, maybe you don't, but if you do, we will build this statue of you. We will remember you in history. We will write it down so that future generations will remember what you did. And so we'll kind of bribe you into saying, if you do this, you will forever be seen as a positive. Like in Australia, there's kind of like a poem about our soldiers. Like, history will never condemn them, because they are uncondemnable.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that is what we promised them.
Yeah,
right? Essentially,
the carrot and the stick. I mean, both have their things. I just think that the carrots, based on the data I've seen, it could have changed by now for all I know, but the carrot's more effective than the stick. Generally,
probably. So I guess therefore,
broadly speaking, the statues are going to work better than the feather, I would think.
Well, so
plus
conscription somewhat didn't work because people found religious exemptions and all of that.
But there, of course, there's always a way to screw it up. I could just like start gluing white feathers to all these statues.
You can start gluing white feathers to statues.
Yeah,
I've honestly thought about doing that.
I'm sure that nobody would get upset at all for that. But like, What are you doing?
I'm sure
Uh,
everybody would. Like the only reason that I haven't done that is because I kind of like
You kind of
breathing.
like being free and not being in prison and stuff. Yeah. I guess you could, it's like, well, but what if the guy was in a chicken suit when he went to war, and now you have to make the statue resemble him, so it has to be white feathers. Then what? And
Well,
they're looking at you, and they're
that's
like,
literally never happened. But
the person raised their hand. Why would you go to war in a? Why wouldn't I go to war in a chicken suit? Because I mean, think about it. You're the bad guy, right? Look. Let me make my pitch here, okay? You're my commanding officer. Okay, you're the bad guys, right? Yeah, right. Well, it's hard to see the camel guys. Yeah. But think about it. A man in a chicken suit with a machine gun is running at you going, blah, 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 blah. Do you, one, shoot him, two, go WTF and sit there trying to figure out what you're seeing, or three, run away? Now, I say it's going to be 2 or 3.
yeah.
And if not, at least I get my chicken statue.
I mean, something somewhat similar. Something somewhat similar sort of happened. Like I remember reading about in World War II, where it was this guy who literally, instead of having a gun, he'd just storm positions with like a sword, and he'd like actually succeed because people were just like, "What the hell is this guy doing? Randomly running, to us? What is going on?" And next thing you know, he's there using his sword, and
Right.
that is so fucking amusing.
Yeah. I like Buzz. I can't pronounce his last name. Manger in chat had said if the uniform was a chicken suit and everybody wore them, then people would get a feeling of belonging and fight. Yeah. So there you go. So if you made it normal, it'd be normal, right? Well, I mean,
And that they'd no longer be called wars. Sorry, I had to say that.
What? You cut out.
I had to say that.
No, you cut out though.
Yeah, I apologize because I had to say that.
No, but you whatever you said was the internet decided to censor you.
Right. I said they wouldn't if they all wore chicken suits, they wouldn't be called wars, they'd be called cockfights.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That part got cut. Yeah. The cockfights bit cut out on my side, so I didn't hear you say it. So I guess the internet just was like, no, you can't. Well, we said it now, internet. What are you going to do? So let's see. We talked about our deconversion a bit. Well, I've talked about mine so many times. I'm not going to go through it unless you really want me to. No. Do you, now you've been well, what label do you prefer for yourself? Atheist, skeptic, or agnostic, or some combination thereof?
In the question of God, I would define myself as apathetic.
Apathetic. An apathist, okay.
Yes,
you just don't care.
Here's like the thing, right? From where I'm sitting, okay. Say hypothetically you're in a position where you feel like you could save someone, getting in a little bit of danger but feeling like you could handle it. Like the classic example is diving into the water to save someone, but I can't swim for shit, so I won't get that example. You could justify saving this person or unsaving if they're in this position. Maybe God intended for them to be in this position, so maybe I should leave them in this position. Or you could say, I am here, God wants me to save them because I'm here, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be here, right? Or you could do what I do and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to be the best version of myself that I can be. And if at the end of it I'm going to be judged, then I will be judged for who I truly am and not for something that I'm pretending to be.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like the only way that we can really go about, like, if you're doing all this thing because of some promise, then
It
maybe
doesn't
you're
mean
not
as
genuine.
yeah. I think the similar way that if that to my sort of philosophy or part of it, because there's a lot to it. Still trying to work out my worldview. I still can't get very far on it. Um, is is that good is good. It is to do good is good, and so you should do that not for any other reason. It might not even make you feel good doing it. Who knows? It might be really hard. But because it's good, that's why you should do it. And for no other
Well,
reason. No hope of reward, no fear of punishment, just because it is good to do good. And that's
well,
kind of my thought.
here's like the thing about, you say you haven't figured it out yet as if it's like a bad thing, but let me tell you something. Most of the really evil things that happen in the world are done by people who are absolutely convinced they had figured it out.
Oh no, I mean, as far as
You know,
what my whole worldview is or whatever, I don't, I was trying to map out like because people have brought up, they've told me my worldview many times. I've been told what my worldview is. It's like, well, based on your worldview, I'm like, what are you talking about? What worldview? I'm not even sure I have one. What are you talking? Like, how do you know what it is? I haven't even told you what it is. I don't even know what it is. So I was trying to write it up and come up with what it was, and I only got like, I didn't even get like a page done. So I'm like, there's a lot to fill in here, and yeah, so
well, this is why, in conversations where I get in, and sometimes, I've gotten into debates, I never say according to your worldview. I say, well, according to what I understand about your belief, or
yeah.
according to, if I understand you correctly, then this, basically,
Asking them
and
questions about
then it gives
yeah,
them an out to say, well, maybe you misunderstood me, and
right,
okay, fine, maybe I
yeah.
did. Um, Backtracking because I made you look an idiot, but we'll see. Sometimes there's no way of knowing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I've done this thing on YouTube as being a skeptic, so I get a lot of the not the loving Christian comments, although not always Christian, but whoever. Here's a here's one. This guy that I've covered him a long time ago, Martin Struggle. And challenged him to a debate, kind of. And somebody else chimed in, and so I'll just read. I said, you're still around? So any proof of God yet? Any chance you'll debate? Anything new to bring to the table? And then the other guy was like, oh, I'll vouch for this. You need to debate the converted man. And I said, well, I welcome that. Don't hold your breath. Maybe the Lady of Fatima can help. Also, last time I talked to them, I did somewhat lose my cool, which was regrettable on my purpose. And then I was like, oh, that video where that happened, I checked it because I was talking about it. And I'm like, oh, it's not on there anymore. Anyway, so Martin says, I'm happy to debate, although I suspect it will be in the manner of scoring a field goal with a toddler, ... And I'm like, really? I read that. I was like, that's nice. Isn't that? That's just lovely. I just want to pat you on the head. And that's cute. So I said, I don't think of you as a toddler. See, I knew he was trying to say it to me, right? So I made the insult back at him because I can do that too, So yeah. So I'm like, look, I don't start this stupid stuff with the insults, but I finish it. So if you're gonna bring it, be ready. But I've had so many. I think my favorite ones have been on the Bob Barber exposed. Those I think were my favorite insult comments. Like, you're a liar, and I'm like, well, I lied to him. I said that I lied to him, so I mean, like, there was no other way to out this guy as a scam artist other than to lie, because he makes this claim of he can read. He does. He's still doing it today. I still don't know why anybody listens to him, but he, quote, interprets dreams, quote, about the end times and tells you what they mean. Well, I sent him a dream. Oh yeah, it was great. Completely made up. None of it was real, and it was chock full of memes. And he read through the damn thing and he interpreted it. And luckily, I downloaded his video because it wasn't very long before somebody pointed out that it was just a bunch of memes, and he took it down. But I have the original on Google Drive. I have the and so it's like they're like, he's not a fraud, you're the fraud, and I'm like, how am I the fraud? He said that he had this power to interpret dreams. Well, no, of course he can't interpret the dream. It wasn't a real dream. I'm like, that's the point. He should know that it wasn't a real dream. What is he interpreting at this point? How is he's able to get all this out of this, right? And they want to believe that this guy has this power. So that when insults come out, it's typically because people you've hit them in a spot, that they kind of know it's not really true, and that's when the insults come out.
Or they just want to insult you generally.
That also
I mean,
happens.
everyone does that. I mean, let's see. God, I hate the word cuck. If I hear the word cuck one more time,
listen, don't be such a beta cuck.
Like, oh no, can we stop using that word, please?
It's a thing. We can't. Well, eventually we'll go out of fashion. But as my
and we'll replace it with something else.
Yeah, it means somebody that enjoys watching their significant other have sex with somebody else in front of them.
Like, okay, like if
okay, what?
I really hate it when people like try to debate or debunk typically male feminists by calling them cucks. Like if you're going to give them any insult,
beta male, that would be the better one, I would think.
No, honestly, if you're going to give them any insult whatsoever, Darren, this is what you call them: future Me Too victim.
Yeah. Well, that thing kind of collapsed it on itself. Finally, it like ate itself alive, and I mean, that stuff, whatever. What bothers me about all the Twitter stuff is the fact that we are calling hashtags movements. These are not movements. Nobody is moving except for your fingers. This
hashtag Gamergate.
Yeah. This person.
Sorry.
This person had said, if anything I'm doing, I hope that all this pain I'm going through is helping people. And I'm like, what pain? Typing? Like, is typing hurting you? Is that the pain you're talking about? Because like, what are you talking? What pain? Like, what are you talking about? Like, be more specific. I know it's Twitter, you don't have that many characters, but tell us what pain you are experiencing, and then I can tell you whether or not it's worth it. Because if you're just typing stuff, that's not you haven't done anything. You really haven't, But if you write a book, maybe that's different. But, if you're just on Twitter, like, I hashtagged a thing, I'm contributing to the movement. No, you're not. You didn't do anything. What are you talking? Get out there, get in the real world and do something, Don't hurt property or people, or wear a mask. But, protest, fine, but protest with a purpose. And I just, for America at any rate, I wish that we need to, I think, maybe teach people what protest is and how it functions. And the map to build it on is Martin Luther King Jr. He had it right. Absolutely right. They met violence with peace and love and understanding and compassion. And that's why they won. It's because you can't fight that. It just makes you look like the bad guy, And so people saw that they were being dragged out of public areas just sitting there. They just sat there in the mayor's office or whatever, and they were dragged out and beaten. And people saw that and said, "Huh, they're not the bad guys. We're the bad guys. The police are being bad. We need to change this." That's what. And nowadays you have people protesting by inciting violence, and it's like that's not going to work. It's only going to end badly for everybody.
Yeah, like I remember, like when I first started, in sort of gender issues, I would literally show up to feminist marches and feminist like events and interview a bunch of people and get them to tell them the reason while they were there and all of that, and I would just sort of post it on my website and allow people to see for themselves, because in my mind what I was doing, I was like, okay, I am giving a certain point of view across every day. Let me give the people who I tend to disagree with, let me give them airtime, and people can decide whether or not what they say is legitimate, and just let them
makes sense.
Let them speak.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely. I'm happy to debate anybody.
Well, I really didn't couch it as a debate. I was like, give me the best pitch,
right,
for what you believe and why, and just let them go completely uninterrupted, and just let people simmer with that. And occasionally people would have recognized me as this is an MRA. What is he doing here? Blah 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 blah. And people would tell me to F off, go away. But I never felt like, sure, there was hundreds of them and one of me, right? But here's me with a GoPro on my head and a smartphone and all that, like, and hundreds of people, some of which probably would have gladly punched me if they could get away with it.
Yeah,
but
might be.
Now it's like, it's getting to the point where I wonder if that would have actually happened now. Like, it seems to have gotten worse in that respect.
Well, it's hard to say too, because if you look at the media, the mainstream media, of course, they have they know that the problem is they feed on the ratings, and so they self-generate their own propaganda in a sense, because they're not going to show you the protest that's peaceful and nice, because who cares about that. They're going to show you the one where bad stuff happened. And if it's localized to a very small section, they're not going to show you the rest of the protest where nothing bad is going on. They're only going to show you the part where bad stuff's going on, because that's going to get your attention. And I think that, and they do it because that gets attention and it gets views. If they showed you what the whole thing was going on, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But it's not as interesting as the fighting, because, and I think they could, I always wondered, when I was a kid and even now, why the news didn't do more about the positives in society. Like, why didn't they go and highlight the person that was volunteering most of their time to help out whatever the bleep it was, or say, I'm at the local food shelter, here's where it is, here's how you can help. Why not highlight the good? And if you did, it would become popular because you were playing it all the time, and that then you could change it. But they didn't go that route. They went down the easy path of violence, and it gets views, so we'll just do that because it's easy.
Not just
everybody,
violence, but
not everybody, but
type of violence.
Yeah, a particular type of violence.
Like, let me sort of give you an example as to what I mean. Like, if you heard of Boko Haram.
I think so, yeah.
They became famous by kidnapping a bunch of girls out of a classroom. Right?
I
forget exactly where off the top of my head.
Yeah.
The important thing is that they became famous for doing that, and there were all these hashtags, bring back our girls. But what were they doing before, and what have they gone on to since? Well, what they were doing before is they were raiding schools, and they let the girls live, and they tied the boys up and burned them alive at the school.
Damn.
right? And that was not getting airtime. Okay.
What?
Not really.
What?
Not really all that much airtime at all. This group had butchered thousands of people, and they only got airtime when women were in danger. And that is
so
one area of
yeah,
what sells and what doesn't.
Yeah, so
in
not
the
only
mainstream.
are they interested with what sells per se, but they also, of course, are selling to a particular demographic. So that's with like CNN and Fox News. Like you have the left and the right. But the thing is, it's really not as divided as it seems on the surface, because they're both selling an idea. And if you look beyond that, you can find some nuggets of truth in there, but you have to look beyond it. And that's why I stopped watching any official news. And now I watch like YouTubers who will cover stories far. If they cover it and they're lean and the like, what's this? Louder with Crowder, you know he's a Republican because he tells you he's conservative. Well, he doesn't say Republican, but you know that. So he doesn't hide it. He's like, look. And he does seem to give the other side its fair say, and so I prefer the honesty of, yes, we are this up front, rather than, oh no, we're fair and balanced. No, you're not. Come on, you've got a bias just like everyone else. It's like we all have biases. Like, yeah, but at least be honest about it. Like, and people try to make sense if I'm a anti-feminist or anti this or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm anti-illogic. That's all. If I find a logic, I'll take it out. Doesn't matter what it is, And I was called an MRA, and I'm like, I'm not a men's rights activist. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be an activist for anything, let alone anybody's rights.
I'm
a skeptic. That's my only label. That's all I know how to do. I don't know how to do this other stuff. So, but we all bring our, we all have our certain thing that we fit into.
I mean. Yeah, I guess we all have this little niche that we fit into.
This little niche. I like your niche because I think it's important. I just don't know, what use I would be to any of it, other than, hey, you got an argument to analyze? I can do that. That's it. That's all I know. But and I've talked about this.
That's still something.
It's still something, right? But I would offer that to anyone that wants to give me any argument. I don't. It doesn't matter, women, men, young, old, this, that, whatever. Because it's like, and I was explaining to somebody that the argument matters and the person doesn't. And they're like, well, but you don't want to talk to somebody that's a liar or that's mentally ill. And I'm like, I don't know if they're a liar or mentally ill. I'll talk to anybody. I don't care. Besides, they can still give a valid argument. It's probably less likely if they're lying or mentally ill, but they could still do it.
Well, here's the problem with that. Like, point one, everybody lies. If you say you don't lie, then you're lying. I'm sorry.
Well, my duty is to the truth. So I've taken that from Kant, and I've tried to make it very much that I don't lie, or at least I don't say what like I don't say what I know isn't true. Like if I say something,
right,
it's something yeah. But as far as like
sort of,
ask me my bank account number, I'll be like, it's none of your business. But ask me, something that I'm willing to share, and I'll tell you. I'll be honest with it. But
I have a different, for lack of a better word, philosophy as to how people are. Like, I think lying is part of the human condition. Hypocrisy is part of the human condition.
Well,
everybody does that in some way or another. Whether or not you're aware of it or not is a completely different thing.
Well, being a hypocrite,
it's part of who we are.
Being a hypocrite it's interesting because I was saying it's not a logical fallacy to be a hypocrite. It's just something that people don't like to be labeled as a hypocrite. And it's like, show me how I'm being a hypocrite in what way. And usually when I ask that question, if people accuse me of being a hypocrite, they can't show how it is that I'm doing it.
Well,
so it's like any other insult. I'm like, what's your point? And like, if you can show me
a sarcastic, let me give you sort of a sarcastic, but also somewhat true way in which I could probably prove that you're a hypocrite.
Oh yeah,
right?
okay, bring it on. Come on,
Like,
I want to.
Okay.
I want to debate with you. Let's do it. Come on.
Premise
Come on.
1: can we agree that discrimination is wrong?
Discrimination is wrong. Well, in what way? In what way? Because there's all sorts of ways to frame discrimination. Like you were saying earlier with jobs, like obviously you're going to discriminate against people who are not qualified to do that job or who
to do
yeah. So
exactly.
So
but
it just
okay,
depends on.
Let's say it's okay. Let's say you want to do a specific thing, right? And it's not fair to discriminate against anyone who can do that specific thing as long as they can do that specific thing. Whatever that is. Like say, so let's call it task B, right?
Uh-huh.
You want to do task B, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfair to discriminate against people on race or sex.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do task B with them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that is a uniform thing?
Yeah. Well, here's, this brings up something that actually did happen for real, where there's certain requirements for physical stuff, like in a firefighter's job. If you can lift X, you get the job, basically.
Yes.
And that, yes, less women will be able to do that, but a woman could do it if they build up their muscles enough. It's just whether or not they really want to do it. They might have to work harder than a man would to get the same muscle mass, but they could do it. I see that they're women bodybuilders, so obviously it's a thing that's possible to do. It's just a matter of whether or not they want to do it in the first place. So
there's also an extra thing you got to consider, is that with technology, raw strength is becoming less important. Like,
to some
with
extent,
firefighters it is, but
to some
still,
extent, but that, you don't want to rely in that situation. You have to ask the question of, how much do we want to rely on technology and things like that, so that, if you could send in a robot to do the job, then there probably would be very few jobs except for repairing robots, and that might not even be one because you have robots to do that. So at some point humans are going to run out of jobs, right? But let's say that didn't happen. You have to, like anything else, you have to weigh the good versus, the possible harm. So it's like, okay, yes, we could send this woman in there if she had an exosuit on, or we could send a guy in there that doesn't need an exosuit. I think we go with the guy because it's, the exosuit's expensive, it could break, blah, 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 so all these, counterfactuals that go against it. And you're not discriminating because you're not saying you can't do it. You're just saying you must be able to do X to do this.
Right.
Now, I was in the Navy once upon a time, and there was, every now and then you would hear about, well, women want to be in subs. But the problem is that the Navy didn't know what to do with that, because they have birthing that's separate for men and women. They want to keep men and women separate. And they do that because they don't want them having sex, although of course they do, but they don't want to, they don't want to put them right next to each other. So that if on a ship, if you have a small ship, you typically will find it to be all men or all women. If it's a bigger ship like an aircraft carrier, they'll have women and men. But of course, less women join the military, usually, broadly speaking, anyways. So to get enough women that want to be on a sub to man a sub, because they would want it to be only women sub, is not possible. The Navy just couldn't do it, and they refused to change their thing on, well, if we have one woman and the rest of the crew is men, do we really want, under thousands of feet of water, do we really want, if there's any even hint of an issue, we'll never hear the end of it. So they
have a point.
So yeah, because if she gets pregnant, they have to now take that sub back wherever the hell it came from and get her out of there. And she'll probably get kicked out for getting pregnant, but so will the person that got her pregnant. And of course, they would never hear the end of it. And if she got hurt or raped or whatever,
or offended,
that doesn't, we don't care about that in the Navy. We didn't care about offense. That was not even a thing. But so they don't want to, so they say, look, we can't do it. The birthing just isn't there. You'd have to have a really big sub, and you still wouldn't have enough women to make it worth the while. With the special forces, of course, there was sort of you had the movie, what was it, G.I. Jane or whatever, very unrealistic, because they wouldn't haze her. They're not supposed to anymore, but they wouldn't do that. And they'd make it as hard for her as for any of the other men. The problem there is, again, the birthing. That's really the only reason why they don't want to do women in the special services, is basically the same thing, that they would want to separate the birthing. And this is true for all the armed forces, pretty much. They don't, even if you have a room that's both the beds are have doors that can lock, they will not put a man on one side and a woman on the other. It won't happen. In the same building, not even in the same building. When we were in training in the school, they had women in a totally different building than the men, and totally different floor. If there was men in that building, the men were on whatever floor, the women were on whatever floor, and they were not. If you're a man, you're not allowed up to that floor. Period.
Nowadays, I guess they could just identify while they're on that floor. I don't know.
I don't know. I honestly have no idea how they're handling that situation. I imagine that they might have said, "Oh yeah, sure, whatever," on the surface, but what the surface says and what reality is are very different things in the military, and you learn that real fast. The right way, wrong way, Navy way. So I don't know what they're doing with it, and good luck with all that. I don't even want to touch that. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But my point is that it's like, it would be nice if we didn't have to worry about people having sex with each other. Like, ideally, like, okay, put the woman and the man in the same room. Who cares, right? Like, they should just be adult enough not to want to have sex with each other. Well, they might, but you're on that boat for a long time at sea, and there's work to do, and you do your work, and you do more work, and then you go to sleep. But eventually, you're gonna get bored. So it's not an ideal situation that they want to deal with. So they've done different things to try to deal with it, and more power to them for trying to figure that out, because I don't know how I'd do it.
It's a very interesting conundrum, isn't it? Like, yeah.
I mean, if there was such a thing as saltpeter that made you not want to have sex, then I guess they would feed you nothing but that on the ships. But even then, you'd still do it just because you're bored.
Well, I mean, there could be a simple solution coming up in the near future, actually.
What's that?
It's called Vasil gel. And what it is they're doing research in India at the moment. But basically, it's a gel that you can insert via a needle into your vas deferens. I think that's how you pronounce it. But basically, it neutralizes sperm on the way out, so you can never have a child while this is in it. And you can also have another needle to wash it out. So if you want to have children again, you can do it. So basically, if hypothetically, you could theoretically, if you mass produced it, it could be really cheap, right?
Yeah, no, that reduces the one problem. Then you have the other problem of the jealousy over who gets to have sex with the only woman on board. So
well, I mean, feasibly, I can solve one problem, but that will not solve the others.
Right,
but
hypothetically, but the idea of birth control that you can turn on and off in that way is something that I've been hoping that science would develop, because especially if men and women can do it, because then if we had that and you say, okay, I don't know, 12-year-olds on up, that's the start of puberty, 13 to 12, sometimes earlier, but usually whatever age, you say, hey, look, take, or maybe you don't even give people a choice. You just give it to them until they're 18, and then you say, here's the thing to undo it. And if you take that, you have to let everyone know that you took it somehow. Like maybe there'd be, I don't know, some indicator that you're not taking it,
Well, look, I don't know if that's possible, but
I don't know
I
either.
Tell you is like
if like Dark Mirror,
if you want it, I think it's the Parmesis Foundation, whatever they're called.
Yeah, you'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I can look. I could try looking it up. And
find it, and I'll put it in. And I'll put it in the description.
But basically, that could solve a whole lot of problems. Something like that. Solve a whole lot of problems. But yeah,
I'm sorry, I was laughing at the external chat, which you can see, but you're not in the right window to see it. But if you go to my channel, you'll see our talking to each other right now, and then you just hit stop on that, so you won't hear us talk to each other, and then you'll see the chat room. Or, I'll just give you the link. How about that? That makes sense.
Won't that take more of my data away or something?
I don't know what it would do to you, but that way you can see what people are saying in the chat room. Anyways, but expression and catastrophe, whatever, I can't say that word, said, so T-Dill too long didn't read, the Navy wants your balls as blue as possible to keep you productive. That about it? Pretty much, yeah. No, well, not really. See, when you're at port, you actually do way less work than when you're at sea. And it's not that the amount of work that you have to do increases. It's that if they don't give you work to do, you just be sitting there twiddling your thumbs, bored as bleep, because there's very little to do on a ship. There isn't we had a small ship, so there was nothing to do. You're lucky if you have a TV or a Game Boy or whatever, but there's very little to do. So so they make you work longer and harder when you're at sea, because then you have something to do, and then you're tired, and then you go to sleep. So you have a little bit of time to twiddle your thumbs, but not so much time that you become bored, because if you become bored, that could be a problem for everybody. So they want you working and not getting upset at other people, so that you don't hurt yourselves for them. One of the weirdest things.
Sure. How do I pronounce this? Buzz Mazinger, the guy
Buzz
in the
Menger?
chat.
I don't know how to say his last name either.
Right. he is basically 100% right.
Play Monopoly and chess, but don't play Twister. That's asking for trouble. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's more fun to play Monopoly chess. That one takes real skill. As you're playing Twister.
Also, his point that men are generally sent to wars and women are left behind to ensure the society's continuance. Yeah. That is
Yeah.
basically
It is
true.
it. Yeah, it is what we do for better or worse, and I think it's great that we have women that are willing and able to fight and whatever, because there's more than just fighting to do in the military. There's all sorts of crazy jobs, some you don't even want to know about, and I couldn't tell you about anyways. But I know there's crazy stuff. Uh, it's you know it's something that it's a very 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 different reality when you're in the military than in civilian life. It's just it's it is not the same. It is different, and they run it their way that they run it, and it works. They have changed a lot of things. They made it, supposedly it's supposed to be against the rules to haze people, but it still can happen, and that's really,
What
I
is
think,
hazing?
well, there's different forms of it, but in anything, it's now been reclassified. Any initiation could be seen as hazing, and they used to have a really bad one when you cross the if you cross the middle of the ocean from Pacific to Atlantic, that they do all these crazy stuff with that you could find on YouTube if you looked for it, but all this terrible weird things that they do to each other and themselves, and it's like it's a rite of passage, like they would for you know Gamma Sigma Gamma sort of thing. The what do you call it, sorority groups would do hazing to initiate you into the group. And because people were getting hurt and also not liking it, they decided it would just be against the rules to do it. But even if it's against the official rules, that doesn't mean that people don't still do it because tradition, so
Well, I imagine, giving people some kind of sense of belonging. Like, you belong now because you've done this. That's a
yeah,
very old thing, and I
sure. But
imagine to an extent that it works.
well, you don't need to do the crazy stuff that they were doing. If you want a sense of belonging, there can be other ways to do that. And I think
Oh yeah,
what
sure.
all they need to do is just, do, here's your medal or here's your whatever. That's your that's your initiation, and that's it. They used to have a thing, when you went up in rank, where they would tack on your rank, and what they meant by that is just hit you in the arm where your rank appears, and so everybody that's there would hit you in the arm, and of course, well, you get a bruised arm. And they said, look, we're hurting our people mentally and physically. We don't need to do that. How about we just clap for them because they went up a rank? Why are we, it's like we're acting like kids. It's just, we there's a long way for them to go, I think, to get really mature, because what I saw was like being in high school. But it's a different world. Leave it at that. But anyways, I don't know. We're all over the map. But okay, so Australia. You cut out again. Hold on, you cut out there.
Test.
Yeah, there you go.
Test.
Okay, so we've got Australia, we've got America. Now, how do you? Oh no, I know. I got a dumb one for you. In the game Risk, right?
I've been told that if you take Australia, you take the world, essentially.
Well, no. Well, Australia is great. It's easy to hang on because there's only one little island, whatever the island is between it and everyone else. So yeah, I mean, once you got a hold there, it's really easy to keep it. Are there people who don't get hazed? Yeah, hazing is supposed to be not allowed anymore in the military, but it does happen sometimes. I think it's bad, but I think if it's against,
I think it depends on how it's done.
It also depends on how it's done, because you could do it in a way that doesn't hurt somebody's mental or physical well-being, and just have a thing that is an initiation, but is not a negative initiation. Not like let's soap down the deck and have people slide on it without a shirt on. The deck is not made to slide on. That thing is rough stuff. So you're going to cut yourself up pretty bad doing that. So, you know, it's no need, you know, instead of hitting them, let's just clap for them. You know, we got, you know, like it could be as simple as getting a new hat, you know.
But the thing is, I think what you're missing is the feeling of belonging isn't going to be a top-down thing. Like, you're going to be feeling belonging to the people that you're currently ranked similarly to you, not higher. And so if you want to change this culture, I'm not sure it will work very well coming top down. It will have to be among themselves.
Well, that's why the rules got changed, was because, you know, there was a lot of changes. Like when I got in, the guns had been retired for, I think, a year. They don't have guns in the Navy training anymore. Like, you get to shoot laser rifles once or twice, and that's it. There is no actual.
But there are laser rifles now?
No, they're rifles that shoot a laser out of it, like laser tag. That you shoot it at a target. That's it. Now they might have gone back since I've been there, because I've been however long ago that was, when I was 18, a couple weeks ago. You know, but when I was there, they had changed stuff recently. They still had the gun rack up because it was another thing that you had to clean, but they didn't have anything on it. So the traditionalists, you know, like the way that it was, but the new people coming in have no idea, and they're going to make changes. And some of them are for good, and some of them might not be. It's hard to say. You know, once you're out of that system, you know, it's even harder to say, because, you know, you don't, unless you're in the system, you don't really, I mean, you can kind of, you have to be involved in some way to really know, you know, what to say about it, because it's pretty tough from an outsider, because they're not going to tell you everything that's going on. When it was allowed,
inside, you won't know what everything that's going on.
I don't know how long ago that hazing wasn't. I don't know when they changed the UCMJ to include hazing not being allowed. But if you look on YouTube for, like, what is it called, the Mediterranean, or what is it called when you shift from Atlantic to Pacific? I don't know. But
it's called the ocean.
No, I'd hang you upside down, but that would just put you right side up again. Yeah, we're upside down. I don't know, but if you look it up, you'd find some hazing stuff. You might even just type hazing and find it that way. So I don't know. How do you feel about that one Flash video? That was like the end of the world video. Have you know what I'm talking about? You probably don't know what that is.
No.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna find it. Talk while I find this thing. Talk to the people in chat.
Talk to the people in chat. All right. Well, look, dude, there could be cutlasses. Maybe just give them a lightsaber instead of a cutlass. Can we do that? Like,
the hell are you talking about?
I don't know. There are people saying that apparently there are no swords on ships anymore.
No, not other than for a ceremony, you probably wouldn't find it. No.
Oh, that's sort of sad.
Yeah, if you look up hazing Navy, you'll find videos. So that's all you have to do. Now what was the other thing?
The video you're looking for, right? Like the sort of initiation thing, like that's common in all sorts of work. Like believe it or not, I used to work in construction, and there were all sorts of, like, depending on certain sites, if you got into a certain area, there were people who would have some kind of initiation ritual, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
depending.
if it's not something that's gonna hurt you, you know, and the level of hurt and what that is, of course, you know, it's really, you know, because what happens is, like, let's say that we started with, well, let's put whipped cream in your face, haha, okay, but then it's a full pie, and then of course it escalates, and you know, and then but then you have the one guy or gal that comes in and they're allergic to whipped cream, you know, it's just anyways. What am I doing? Oh, that's right. There, I put
That's
the
the
thing
video.
there.
You
That's the
you've
video.
clicked the video.
Click the
Are we
video.
supposed to watch this video
Yeah, watch
now?
this video. Okay, well, I wish
Definitely
I could
now.
play it here, but I don't know how to do that. So everybody watches like, so it's like this is the world, right? It's pretty cool. Let's see if I can. No, I can't. I can't hear them. Really? Okay, that's weird. Huh? That is very odd. The bleep? For some reason, the guys at work don't involve me in initiations. But I remember the goal. What is my volume? My volume went. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay, I'm back. Ah! Yay. I'm on mute. Everyone's on mute. Unmute now. Unmute. Unmute. Well, that was a thing. I think sending everybody to the end of the world just ended the world, I guess. So that was, you know, interesting. Well, I don't know what to do now. Panic. Adrian, come back. Adrian. Audron. I don't know how to say this name.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yay! Okay, you watched the video? Yeah, Australia
Yes.
and California survived, and that was it.
Yes.
And Hawaii.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. It's classic.
What was the
So
point of
you
you watching that video?
I don't know. Like, so you're from Australia, so you'd have a different view than I do on it. I don't know. You have such a different culture, you know. I know.
Don't think that's how we're going to end. I really don't.
So yeah, I don't know what else. Let's see. Oh boy, this guy's got a huge load of text that I have. So where can we find you? Do you want to promote anything for me to put on the thing to promote, or like Facebook or Twitter or whatever? For you
I
and
guess
for your men's rights group, or for whatever else, you know.
Well, if you're on Facebook, there's Men's Rights Australia. Or if you're on Twitter, there's Men's Rights Australia or Men's Rights Oz, or just mensrightssydney.com. And then from there you'll find everything. But yeah, that's about.
And you all take money, right? Like they can send you guys money if they want.
Not really.
No, you
No.
don't want money.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
I would
yet.
think that would be a thing. Like
It will be a thing. However, we are in the middle of attempting to get a legitimate charity set up, and at that
so
point,
if you
once
got
we can
money
actually
now,
do
it'd like screw you
something-
up.
we have set up no ways of which to get money from people who aren't who don't show up to our meetings. So they
Okay.
if you-
I don't understand what you said, but anyways, they can find you in all sorts of things. You'll give me the links to put in the thing, or you can put them in chat now, and then I'll add them to the thing or whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. I guess you're just telling people to look for it, I suppose. Is there
well, yeah.
more than one Men's Rights Australia, or just
There was one before that sort of doesn't exist now.
oh.
But
So
really,
you're you're the man. You control that thing basically.
yes, at the
Cool.
moment, yes.
That's cool. All right. It's not a matter of if, gut, when. Uh, they always say it's not if a huge meteor hits the Earth. It's when. Yeah. Well, the thing with meteors is they're always flying across our universe and the galaxy. So, it is just we have them hit the Earth all the time. It's just a matter of a big enough one.
Yeah. Now we have Captain Planet to save us, so we're fine.
No, we don't. We don't have that. We do. Look, the odds. We don't even know what the odds are, but we know that it's happened in the past because we have giant meteor craters. We think that that's the leading thing on what killed the dinos, and it would be nice to have a plan for what to do if one's coming our way.
Well, there are these people called preppers. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, but see, they're screwed too. No, I mean, as far as a national or international response to a giant meteor coming our way, we don't even have
a
good
plan.
detection. We do have a plan. We're all the important people are fine. The rest of us are screwed. But I want a plan that saves all of us.
That. But we also, we have this place where we actually store seeds.
Yes,
like in the fucking Antarctic or somewhere.
Yeah, but that's not really. If depending on where the thing hits, that's not going to help us either. But no, we could blow it up. We could. Well, one of the suggestions was push it away from us. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to handle it, but first is detection of the dang thing. Neil promotes this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it's not like the government doesn't have the money to throw at it. It's just that the government's like, it's fine, because it's one of those. It's kind of like flossing your teeth. It's a preventative measure, so it's harder to do it. But
yeah,
look, trust me, you don't want to lose your teeth. I know, because I've lost a few. Because I didn't floss or brush or care. But, so if you don't care and then a meteor hits, well,
you still don't care because
you still don't care, but you also don't exist. So, yeah, I hate the medicines that are like, side effect includes death. Death is not a side effect, okay? You are just dead. Dead is not side effect. Side effect I can recover from. Anyways,
yes, well, like in
Australia,
there was at some point a sign somewhere in Newcastle, whereas if you trespassed in a certain area, it caused instant death and a $500 fine.
Damn. Well,
yeah.
It's a lot of money. I don't know about that. Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of there's certain states that have on the books that it's illegal to commit suicide.
Yeah, and
well,
what's your punishment for attempting to commit suicide?
No, well, if you attempt it, no, that's fine. But the law is you're not allowed to do it. Like, huh? Somebody wasn't thinking when they wrote the law. Okay, I have one final thing, and then we'll be done with this. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this thing. Hold on. Where's the thing? Damn it! What's the thing?
I blame the patriarchy.
Don't bring it up, man. You're not helping. Gonna get me demonetized or something. Not that I monetize anything.
You have to be monetized before you're demonetized. I hate to break
I
that
don't
to
know.
you.
They might find it. Well, it's funny because on my number one most watched video, they decided to hit it with copyright for the music, and it's the only thing I have that has an ad, and I didn't put it there. I could have thought it probably would have won, but I was like, whatever. I don't want to. I don't want to risk it. What am I looking for? Shit. No, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for the that meme. Where's that meme? Where is it? Oh bleep. Um uh uh what did you think of Spirited Away?
Yeah, just because you got confused Matthew to review it and he thought it sucked. Now you're gonna ask me.
He didn't
Look,
even really I don't want to get into
he reviewed it based on how it was described on the disc and then thought it doesn't sit up to its explanation, therefore it's bad, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember his review correctly, basically that was it.
Basically,
I remember I found that I
Yanis
actually
review.
watched it and I found it interesting enough that it held my attention. And I think that's I think that's high praise coming from something that's so different than anything that I had ever been introduced to before in my entire life. Because I'm not an anime person. Like the closest I got to anime was like a fucking Pokemon or Digimon or Sailor Moon, perhaps, was the most anime I ever got. But this is
see, you don't need to see. That's the thing. It's just another medium to tell a story in. That's all it is. That's why
yeah,
people
but it's kind of a genre though.
I mean, it's like saying like, I mean, I guess, but not really because Hayao Miyazaki movies are very different than all other animated movies.
Like,
so,
think of it. Think of it like this. I think the claim. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard the claim that 50% of gamers are women because of phone games. It's kind of like saying 50% of book readers are men because of comic books.
well, anyway, so you liked it. Now, had you seen? I don't know why we're on this now, but whatever. Because I was trying to find the thing. I found the thing. So this is the challenge. Okay.
Stop masturbation.
You have to read. You have to read. Like, click on the memers. You see the memer thing.
Family memers. Yes, here we go.
Yeah,
memers.
click on that and start reading that out loud, and don't laugh. That's the challenge.
But this is clearly satire, isn't it?
I don't know. You remember, Poe's Law?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, okay. I do.
Yeah. Like, if it's crazy enough, you can't know if it's satire. So, we know people are crazy, and so, anyways, yeah. Read some of these memers, or let's see if you how long you last before you crack up.
This is pretty stupid.
No, yeah, I know it's stupid, but we're gonna do it. Don't laugh.
If you say so.
Does your I love this. Does your child have a problem with self-gratification? Anti-masturbatory sleeping gloves. Okay,
yeah, that's clearly a Poe. That's clearly not. And the whole "where are you going" with normals apparently going to heaven. Like what's normal? Can someone define normal for me, please?
I like my favorite.
I support Ebola, apparently.
My personal favorite photo, and I saved it because I'm gonna use it in a video eventually. Is this photo here? the zipper slightly down on the pants.
Mhm.
Get it up for Jesus. Now, let's analyze this, shall we? There's the
That
double
makes no
entendre
sense.
of get it up, which we know is sexual, get it up, because it's penis. Then there's the fact that this thing is halfway down, or I guess it's most of the way up. I guess if you're an optimist, it's most of the way down. I don't know. But
It's the zipper that's got to be up, clearly. So, you know, this is clearly.
Save a chicken, save your soul.
What the?
Your minds are filthy. Come to church and have your brain washed.
Only is. Childs is always watching. Don't let. Tighten your grip on your life. Holy crap.
7 keys
What
to
the hell
life.
is this?
7 keys to life. Number 1, don't masturbate. Number 2, don't masturbate. Number 3. Okay.
This is clearly.
No, this is a serious website.
No, it's not.
Yes,
It is totally. It is
no, it's
totally.
real. There. Why else would they do it if they didn't really want it? Like, there's a prayer leaderboard. What is it? Family fun. Oh my god. Oh no. Their family's fun web part does not even work. Oh. Oh, that's classifieds. Master haters. Subject confused. This website is all wrong. With the world, and you are crazy religious people who occupy it. The fact that people think masturbation is this way and how you believe it causes all these bad things is absolutely crazy. You have drank way too much of the Kool-Aid. It is a shame that America allows people to start a cult like this. This is the beginning of the end. While you're praying to God, say hi to Santa and the Easter Bunny for me. Okay, I'm done. I gotta stop now. Anyways, so we failed that challenge. I love that webpage though. Anyways, so that's all I got for you. Thanks for reviewing that website.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure that I'm even halfway down yet.
Is that also a meme? I'm not even sure that I'm halfway down yet. Stopmasturbation.org.
Oh god.
I know
that one's my favorite.
The Australia version. Don't go down under.
Oh god.
Hey, why is it called Oz when we have Oz being like a different thing? Like, which one was first? Was the Oz books first, or was Oz Australia first? And why?
Okay. First of all, I don't know what you're asking, because obviously Australia has existed for longer than we've called it Australia.
Calling it Oz, though. OZ,
Calling what Oz?
Australia.
Well, I don't know. To be honest with you.
What good are you?
Like,
you're supposed to know everything about Australia because that's where you're from. That's how it works.
Okay.
Okay. So like I know everything about
so.
America because that's where I'm from. Ah.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, come on. Ask me anything. I'll tell you the answer.
I absolutely love how the third comment on this is I masturbated to this 10 times better than Pornhub. That is amazing.
I love it. Yeah, well, I've given you something. See, but reading that website will give you something to do other than masturbate, I guess. You know? It's impossible. I think it's pretty much impossible to masturbate and laugh at the same time. So, Oh, well, this hangout has gone to
that is
shit.
pretty good.
It's time to stop now. Good night, everybody. Thanks from my man from the past here. Anytime you want to talk about anything or talk to people, maybe we can get a thing with lots of people in here.
Sure.
You know, or whatever, and tell them how wrong they are about stuff. I think
Yes.
I had.
Let's get confused Matthew and tell him how
Oh,
wrong and
God.
about Spirited Away he
Ah,
was.
jeez, yeah. Well, look, it's a
Let's convince
fantastic.
him to finish his response
look.
to Chase Mendez. He needs to do it.
That was one of the weird things. That was weird. That was very odd that happened. Very sad. Yeah. Well, it's also weird because he was right. The guy was just doing ad hominem. He wasn't really actually saying anything other than that. But no, the if you're gonna review like Guy with the Glasses, like although he's had that kind of controversy, like he'll say, okay, here's what the movie is, and here's what I thought about it, like or whatever, and that's what he did. You know, he had the Studio Ghibli films up, and he covered all the things, and you know, talked about how beautiful it is and how weird it is and all that, and you know, he said that he kind of liked it, but it wasn't really for him or whatever. And it's like, that's a review. That's a real review. He didn't do that for that film. There's so much there you could pick apart. I mean, like the fact is the ending informs you of the beginning. That's one thing about that movie. That when you see the end,
are you saying it begins and ends with a turkey sandwich? I am surprised you still get that joke, sir.
I'm not talking to
It
you
has been a
anymore.
long time.
Turkey sandwich. Oh God, I don't even remember what that is, but I know it's stupid. Okay, I'm done. Good night. Good night, everybody. Bye. Say bye.
Night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Here's the button. Here's this button. Okay. Oh, no. Wait.
The unlive button.
No.